All right, to make a casing, instead of putting a tie on the end, you go ahead and do the pleats step. You can see I've already completed the pleats on each side. Everything is ready. The last thing to do is a casing for either an ear loop or an elastic or even a tie. You can add a tie. So I cut a strip of the same fabric or contrasting. You can pick something different. This would be fun with a yellow or a green or something. Into 2 1/4 inch strip. And when I'm doing a ton of the same one, I will go ahead and again cut these into, for adult, it's about a 3 1/2 inch piece for each casing. In this case, I was only doing a few of these kid size ones. You can see they're shorter. So what I do is I grab this and I put it face up, whatever you want showing. I'm gonna set my mask down, and I'm actually going to, before I sew, it's just a little bit past, I'm gonna fold that over. So now we see the underside of the fabric, and I sew that. So I make sure that I cover whatever I stitched my pleat seam. I just need to go past that. So I'm gonna go right about here. I'm gonna stitch it a little bit, back stitch on this one, and then I'm gonna cut about the same amount. So maybe 3/4 of an inch to maybe 1/2 inch is all you need. You can do quite small ones, but I like them to have just a little bit of overlap. And then I'm gonna hold that, or you can use a seam ripper, or you can pin it and stitch straight across there. Again, you do want this to be securely sewn on. Take that out. I do both sides, but in this case, I'll just show you how I finish it. I go ahead and flip it over. And now I don't want it to be perfectly straight. I actually want to pull this in just a little bit so it's angled inward. Angle this side inward as well. And then I just kind of finger press that real quick. Helps you on this next step. Okay, so we have, now I've flipped it right side out. And again, I've folded these over, but just barely am slanting inward, or a little bit extra, it doesn't matter. Then I'm gonna fold it about 3/8 of an inch up, and then I'm gonna fold it again. Now I have a casing. The thing I wanna do is I wanna line this line up that I just pulled up right up, just barely to cover the seam that I had sewn it on with. I want to just barely cover that seam. And why that's important is because when I sew just inside that seam, I need to be making sure that I neatly catch this side over here. And if that seam right there is just barely caught, it'll look bad if I don't do it this way. So just trust me. All right, so now I'm gonna sew a straight line across, really close to that, but just inside of it to make sure I catch both sides. Make sure to backstitch on this step as well. Keeping that lined right up and then sewing right inside of it. And you're done. That is your casing. Trim up your threads, and that is what you can add your comfort loops, elastic, or a tie through. If you want to do a tie, you may need a little bit bigger. So instead of a 2 1/4 inch, you might cut a 3 inch or whatever you want. But generally people are using elastic, or they are doing the comfort ties in these.